All right, welcome, blockheads. It's February 21st, 2024. I know Michelle's gonna yell at me for forgetting the intro here. Today's Wednesday.
Yeah.
Actually, it's not 4 p.m. It's 9:30 a.m. on the East Coast. We have moved to a new time. This is the Business on the Bloc podcast. This is your weekly insight into the future of tech, finance, and media. This week, episode 68, The New Hollywood. AI takes the director's chair as Sam Altman's team sends a new round of shockwaves into the media space. We'll tell you what's up with that. AI and blockchain are converging now with a game-changing European partnership. And Reddit has cut a secret AI deal that, frankly, may be the future of AI training data. Business on the Bloc is here to bring you exclusive insight into the future of blockchain business. This is the podcast that AI listens to when it needs cutting-edge insights. And so we're going to jump into story number one. Actually, no, intro. Sorry. My lovely co-host, Michelle Peterson-Clark.
Hi, everyone. Good afternoon.
And Mike Neubauer.
Good morning.
So the overview for those who don't know, Michelle will bring the content marketing chops. Mike brings the operations perspective, and I'm business strategy. All right. So story number one. This is coming to us courtesy of Axios, movie making magic directed by AI. So last week, OpenAI unveiled Sora, which if you guys haven't seen Sora's examples, it's unbelievable. It's a text-to-movie AI platform. With just a couple of sentences, any user can crank out remarkably good video, and I mean that, up to a minute long. And obviously, this is shocking both the tech and media world. We're going to dig into this, and we're going to start with Michelle as the content marketing queen. Is this going to change the face of movie making, do you think? How does this impact the media space?
If you don't think it's going to change the movie, media, marketing, whatever space, making space, then you obviously didn't watch the video to see the woolly mammoths walking in the snow with like incredible footage. Like, I mean, as with everything with the AI stuff, and when ChatGPT started, there's flaws, and there's, we're not quite sure if babies are going to have 5 fingers in the videos as well as they do in, images that get created. But the clarity of it, the way it, the way it plays and how it looks, and I agree with the article. The article talks about it's very cinematic, cinematronic, if you want to say, of how it looks on the screen, on your screen when you're looking at it. So I do not think it will be very long once this becomes more mainstream, where there will be whole movies made with AI.
That's going to be an interesting change of effect. I actually have some thoughts on that. Mike, before we do that, what do you think about this? Is this going to be as groundbreaking as it appears to be?
Absolutely. I mean, how can it not be? Again, it gives everybody the capabilities, I guess, of doing whatever they want to build this type of content. Now, I think there's going to be issues with it, of course. People are going to use the likeness of certain actors. They're going to replicate certain lines that may be trademarked. There may be products in there that don't necessarily represent the brands. I mean, there's going to be wrinkles that need to get ironed out. But this is just another step forward in the advancement and the extremely quick advancement of this technology as it relates to anything cultural.
So here's go ahead.
So I was going to say, I can also see a situation where Tom Cruise is just, say, licensed to Paramount Studios, whatever it is, and he has a new contract come up, and he says, right, well, you're allowed to use my AI image in a movie that you create as an AI movie. I don't have to do anything, but I want $10 million for every movie that you do. So Tom sits at home, and the creators make him in a movie, and he might go, oh, well, I want a bit of license to check that it's all right, or you can do this, but you can't do that, some actresses have, no naked scenes in their contracts, as example, those sorts of things. He might have particular parameters, but he can still be earning. Well, Tom Cruise Inc. can still be earning things in 100 years' time, making Mission Impossible movies using AI long after Tom's dead.
Mission Impossible 62. All right, so I have two thoughts on this. Number one is going to be the disaster naysayers, right? This is violating of rights. There's going to be the whole hate speech argument about disinformation, especially around the U.S. presidential elections. and the errors that this things. That's going to be the argument of why you need to restrict it, and it's going to be the end of society. Well, so expect that. But more importantly, I think this drives the adoption of blockchain. Because to your point, Michelle, that you're going to start seeing, you already see U.S. presidents playing Dungeons and Dragons on YouTube right now. The whole AI thing between Obama and Biden. I think that you're going to have a problem where famous celebrities, we saw this with Taylor Swift a few weeks ago, are going to be appearing in things they shouldn't be in, good or bad, or might not be getting the money that they should be for it. And so blockchain becomes a way to regulate and ensure the money end of this. Like, I'm not so much concerned about the creators themselves, because they'll make hay with it. People want to get paid. The business end of this is, how do I ensure I've created something really cool with approval of Bruce Lee's family? I've made a new Bruce Lee movie. How do we make sure that that isn't getting printed up the street somewhere in Hong Kong? And blockchain is that answer. So,
well, it's also the answer to authenticity.
Right.
You know, which ones are real, which ones are fake, which ones are deep fakes. You know, I think more so than the economic side of it, there's the authenticity side, which correlates with the financial component of it. But, you know, we talked about, you know, I guess it was the George Carlin conversation that we had a few weeks ago, and, you know, Prince with AI and all these different things. I mean, we're witnessing the creation of the fountain of youth in real time. You know, Bruce Lee is going to be able to make a movie with, you know, Christopher Walken, and, you know, all these guys that are, like, you know, from back in the day, and people that have yet to even be born. And I think that's really, it brings it to another level of creativity. A lot of it's going to be repurposed content, but I think we've already started to play out the inability to create new types of content in our culture now. Everything is repurposed. Everything is redone with different graphics and different technology. Now, if we can start combining those efforts, you're mixing, I guess, a new generation with the previous generation, and that's still a revenue driving force.
Right. I agree. Michelle, what do you think?
One of the problems I can see, and not particularly for now, but I can see that, say in 50 years' time, the current crop of actors that are real people, that people go and see in the movies, Tom Cruise, Kate Blanchett, you know, Glenn Close, those sorts of actors and actresses, when they die, and in the preceding 40 years between now and then, in the 50 years when they died, there are a plethora of only AI movies that have AI characters in them. Ultimately, you could say that there'll be no more movie stars anymore, because none of them actually exist.
What do you?
I'll push back slightly on that.
I'm going to push back also.
I'll push back slightly on that, mainly because those are the people that still need to sell the movies. You know, there's brand recognition with the actors that come in. I mean, you know, Tom Cruise, like, Mission Impossible is nothing without Tom Cruise. Now, if Tom Cruise is not out pushing that type of movie, then it's a problem. But an interesting comment. I mean, look, everybody in the Bolt chat, which is on fire today, you know, they're making some really interesting comments. One of them was, Paul Walker for sure is going to be in Fast and Furious 100. 100%. And that's like, that is guaranteed.
Why wouldn't the family want that?
Guaranteed.
Yeah, I agree. I'm going to make a jump in here, Mike, while we reset you here. If you go back to the 1950s rock and roll evolution, Mike, back in the early 50s when rock music was coming around, there were singles, right? Elvis had a single. Even as late as the 60s, it was about hit song. Later comes the albums. By the 70s, 80s, you have album artists, right? So what happens, though, is by the 90s, Pearl Jam, in my estimation, is the last band that has albums, full-on albums where you go buy the album. The reason I'll tell you this matters, a creator can make individual hits now. You can make your Drake single, Mike, that you've been wanting to make. And so I don't need to be a full-on artist. I can be a flash in the pan. You know, when Lorde comes out with the Royals or whatever, it's a one-hit wonder. We're going to see that in the movie-making world. Not, in other words, Martin Scorsese or these, you know, Quentin Tarantino, these directors that are so famous for their hits, Steven Spielberg, that goes away. And instead, you get some schmuck in his bedroom somewhere in Norway that has this unbelievable movie. And
but there's no longevity to those types of efforts. Everything in the latter I guess, example that you provided,
yes, there is
more trending than longevity. Like Scarface will live forever. The Godfather will live forever. There will be remakes of it. There will be attempts of it, but the originals, they will live on. Some kid who makes a version of that.
Cross-pollinating the content, Mike. It's not that the longevity comes from more movies. The longevity comes from the game that they'll make off the back of that. Or
Correct.
They'll take a game like Minecraft and make it into a real adventure with Bruce Lee and Elvis Presley and Michael Jackson.
But the kid who makes that in his room is a one-hit wonder, right? He's the
That's what's going to happen.
He's the Marcy's Playground of movie creation.
Was that Sex and Candy? What was?
Yeah. And if you heard any other song they made, it was horrible.
The thing is, though, I mean, and I'm not saying this is that I want this in terms of, you know, only AI actors being famous and whatever. If you think about, you know, I can't even remember what the name of the woman is that's on Instagram that's an AI character and has, you know, what has she got? 44 million followers or whatever. Like, that's not a real person, but people are still following every day what this account does on Instagram.
The hot Spanish woman, Aitana, that you were talking about?
Oh, no, I've heard. Do you, Mark?
I've heard Pell.
So, you know, like, I mean, I think that ultimately, yes, there should be and probably will be actors. I think the biggest sector hit will be the minor walk-on people in the background in the coffee shop while the main people are actually doing the dialogue kind of parts in Hollywood. Gone forever once this stuff is mainstream.
Interesting. Yeah, my mind is racing with where this can go, because you could have an avatar that becomes famous and popular, a la Aitana, who later turns out in the revelation is a transgender. Like, and the whole thing is fake. You can AI your way to entire soap operas here. Anyway, I do think we're going to see one-hit wonders. I do think that the evolution of movie making goes to it's like the bedroom producer for EDM music.
Well, we'll see where it goes. I mean, again, if the tools are accessible, it creates a different avenue for content creators. So let's not forget about that particular industry. You know, this opens up a whole new Pandora's box for marketing potential, content creation, branding. You know, how are these going to be able to be streamed onto these platforms that we know to love? Are the AI components going to be able to evolve based around user tendencies as well? I mean, are you going to be able to see a different ad than I would on the same brand? Like, all of these are very possible now.
So, Mike, to your point, the regular listeners, the Bull Chat folks, will remember we discussed a few weeks back about George Carlin was in a new special.
Yeah.
I know you're a fan, Mike, and the family didn't get paid on this, and so, but they would want to. So you can now make a literally ultra realistic actual George Carlin on the screen that looks and sounds and is him, was not really him, and the family is going to get paid. So now you have an endless revenue stream from fame. And that's something like, for example, we've seen how the Kardashians can harness that. This is now an eternal thing. Getting famous becomes important now because it is multi-generational. This has been around. I mean, it's just now around in movie format, right? You could have easily taken George Carlin's voice and created a podcast and sold ads on that podcast. Right? Like that. I mean, regardless on whether the family's involved or not, I think they should be. I think their estate should be. But again, like we're talking about drinking that fountain of youth right now, where his content lives based around his previous content. And that's where I think it becomes a little bit gray area from the artistic side of things. You know, because is an artist valuable after he's gone? You know, if he constantly creates new content, you know, the argument should be no. But again, I reference Tupac. He comes out with a new song every month. So to your point, the Beatles just put out their Now and Then song, right? They find a scrub of John Lennon's voice on some old tape and they turn it into, but the marketing angle behind that, for those who are following, and if you're a Beatles fan, there was the short form documentary of the forming of the song. There was the how the Beatles met. There was the re-release of all the major records. They did all this stuff before they actually released the goddamn song, which was like 2 minutes. Yep. So we're going to see a lot of that now.
That's the long tail of marketing. That's not the bang it together, bang it out, take our money and run. That's the how can we string this out and make the hype as long as possible to keep the interest and the entertainment there. And that's what that's about.
Well, on that note, just because I'm in the music frame of mind right now, when Bruce Springsteen sells his music catalog to Sony for $500 million, why would an A artist ever do that again? Why would you need to sell your music catalog and cash out if you can create the ultimate endless revenue stream from new songs from your popularity forever? A la Kiss and ABBA right now are on tour. Neither band is really on tour. All right.
Well,
moving us on to the next story. Coming off of artificialintelligencenews.com, Mike, I know you have thoughts around us always doing AI stories. Fetch AI and Deutsche Telekom partner to converge AI and blockchain. This sounds like a fantasy headline here, but this is Deutsche Telekom is partnering with a UK-based AI startup named Fetch. They're going to team up to promote a brand new AI blockchain solution. Essentially, Fetch will offer AI that uses autonomous software agents to conduct transactions, analyze data, manage resources inside of firms, all without human oversight. So these agents will unlock new uses in real-world applications across sectors. A company like a telecom firm like Deutsche can workflow automate everything they do using the AI, and all of it gets done through the blockchain, which ensures client data is secure. Mike, we're going to start with you on this one. Is this crazy, or is this the future of what we're going to see companies do?
Again, like reference all the episodes we discussed before about the merger of AI and blockchain. It's inevitable. It's definitely something that was destined to happen. I think an important phrase that you missed in your brief description there is transparency. This offers a whole different element of transparency to the equation as well. But, a lot of people that think of blockchain and NFTs and all these different things, they forget about the fact that, in its technological roots, it is a computer program. And just like any computer program, you can automate specific elements of it. I'm going to reference a 6551 protocol on the Ethereum blockchain, which anybody can look it up. But in basic terminology, we discussed this on this show. It's the ability for a digital wallet to own another digital wallet. Now, how many times can you replicate that process? And as long as you keep feeding it gas in order to make transactions, it can continuously move forward on executing different functions in and around the blockchain world. Now, if you incorporate AI into that, now you're creating the ability to create those digital wallets, which are then owned by other digital wallets. It's an endless loop.
All right, I'm going to back you up, Mike, for 1 second, just for the sake of the listeners who aren't as familiar with the tech. I know you live in this world. What is the purpose of a wallet owning a wallet? Why is that interesting at all?
Well, it's like layering corporations for layers of protection, right? We talk about security being, a pretty decent issue that still has yet to been resolved here in the blockchain world and digital wallets and crypto and things like that. But this is a way for you to layer specific assets on top of each other. So if I own a wallet and I create a wallet that owns another wallet, the elements that are owned by that third wallet are not accessible through me. They have to go through another layer of protection in the form of another wallet.
Okay, interesting. Michelle, what do you think? This seems closer to your world, literally. Is this a taste of what's to come? Do you think that this is are they just trying to capitalize on the the popularity of these technologies?
Well, I think that we've talked a number of times before about how companies are going to be able to authenticate their works. And this is just another extension of that. We've seen it in other things, and we've talked about it. Couldn't even tell you how many episodes over the past 18 months where we've talked about this. And what are we at today? We're at episode 68 or 69 or something. So like every second or third episode, we talk about ways in which you can use blockchain to advance your technology that you have in what we could currently call the real world. And this is a way in which you can now use the hottest buzzword that there is at the moment, which is AI. And you can use the blockchain to support the activities that you're doing with that.
I agree with you. I think that this is a taste of what's to come. These companies, these big companies like Deutsche Telekom and large multinationals do not understand how they can benefit from blockchain yet. They know there's something there. They're not stupid. They just don't know how to put it into their business. This is going to be a really interesting use case. And the concept is essentially that you can use blockchain to unlock AI's potential by providing reliable, transparent data, Mike, to your point, and that the AI can then also it can analyze blockchain transactions, right? So you've got this back and forth where you create automated agents, and what that means is you can lay off entire departments. Unfortunately, we're seeing this with Google, et cetera, and have machinery do a lot of that stuff. And when it comes to client data involved, it's okay. It's all through the blockchain. Everyone can see everything, and everyone is protected. And so I really feel like it's an early case. This won't become the thing, but it will show and shine a light on, hey, here's two big companies or one company and a startup doing something interesting with blockchain and AI. How can we find some way to do that in our business? So this will spark the conversation in the corporate world, is my guess. So for that reason alone, I think it's interesting.
I think that, again, we're so mired in the trenches of this on a day-to-day that sometimes we have to take a step back and realize the advancement of these technologies independently over the past 3 years has been remarkable, right? We saw the emergence of blockchain, NFTs, crypto. All of these things really had center stage on the spotlight for a while. And then in comes AI. And then that took the spotlight. And, I don't want to say it was completely bumped to the back burner, but it sort of was with the blockchain element. Now we're going to start seeing the merger of these two technologies occur over the next, and evolve together, I should say, over the next period of time. And this is just nothing more than the additional evolution of how this new form of the internet, which is what we called blockchain in the early days, is really going to take center stage, and be a viable technical solution for some of these monster companies.
Interesting.
I think the other thing too is that maybe just before ChatGPT came out, perhaps in September or before of 2021. Oh God, how many? What are we in? 2024 now. 2022. Yeah. We were talking about the metaverse, weren't we? Facebook changed their name from Facebook to Meta. There was this whole big thing, etc., etc. November 2022 comes, ChatGPT comes out, and bang, it just wiped the floor. Like it was a one-punch knockout in the first 2 seconds, to use an analogy from Mike for the the UFC or UFC, what are they called? Yeah, whoever.
UFC. Up until that point, though, Michelle, AI was the hot new thing. Blockchain was really nothing other than a grifter NFT get rich quick thing.
Yes.
I think there was a lot of black eyes with it. Yeah, they were using it for other purposes. There was a lot of black eyes on it, but we did see big companies start dabbling in that technology first, right? But again, and this sort of segues back to our previous discussion about the kid in his bedroom making a movie that goes viral, right? Is this, are these technologies trending at the onset, and then when the dust settles, then these monsters start coming in and they start incorporating that into their marketing strategies, their B2B strategies, their infrastructure strategies. All of these are relative to these different types of technologies that we've seen evolve over the last few years.
I agree, Mike, but the initial use case is always, even at the corporate level, when Porsche came in with their NFT, there was no real value. Starbucks had the hangout room in metaverse where you could pretend to drink coffee, and they were interesting but not great.
They tested the waters on this. I mean, these bigger companies don't necessarily go all in on every marketing effort, right? They pick and choose different ones, and they try different things at different points. And if it sticks and they feel they can evolve with it, then they do so. But the other point I want to make on this, which I think is an important one, we've predicted on several different occasions the ability for blockchain integration to be incorporated on hardware that people are going to have. We're already seeing AI tools be incorporated in hardware, right? There's different development softwares, there's different pieces. Browsers are now starting to have ChatGPT incorporated directly within the browser. So, instead of going to Google, you could just pop open a little window, very similar to that. And I guess it didn't pop up on this one, but there's a little ChatGPT button that comes with certain browsers now. So, next time you buy a phone, don't be shocked if there are blockchain and AI tools incorporated within the back-end technology.
Yeah, I could totally see that.
Go on.
No, I was going to say, I think that the integration of, for example, Perplexity, right? Or taking what's Google and AIing it with a new thing. Yes, Mike, I agree with you. That's been the popular trend. And to the hardware point, yeah, this becomes, then the phone starts to become the wallet, doesn't it?
It definitely does. In fact, it already is in some cases. So is your watch.
Michelle?
I think the other thing to think about too is that companies that have started looking at blockchain and metaverse things, we talked about Disney and EA a couple of weeks ago. These are companies that think 10, 20 years in terms of their business strategies. This isn't what can we do to make $1 million extra next quarter. This is not those sorts of companies. So we've got companies that are well-established businesses that are thinking long-term, that go, we see that this is where the future is in terms of blockchain. What can we do? As Mike said before, how do we test the waters? And they are positioning themselves strategically, sometimes not so flashy, but slowly and methodically, which means that when blockchain is on the rise again, which we think it is starting now, and becomes much more mainstream, you've got well-established brands that have already had a foothold for 5 years, 3 years, not just started next week, come over here and join our program because it's on the blockchain now.
To tie that into the show itself, Michelle, I agree with everything you're saying. We started this podcast, the three of us, because we believed there was not an honest business discussion around blockchain and its applications inside proper business, not a meme coin that we can pop up a community and make a few bucks, but like companies really building on it. And Mike, you've got several projects you've done. Michelle, you've been involved with multiple. There's now starting to be real conversations from real companies around blockchain. And I feel like this show is not the anomaly it was, a year or two ago.
Yeah.
You're starting to now see big companies, to your point, that think long-term. That's been absent. And that's why this story caught attention here. I don't think that this is a flash in the pan. I think companies, when they're thinking longer term, they're thinking, well, how can we use this tech to accentuate what we're doing already? And this is a clear example. You can not only workflow inside your firm, these agents, autonomous agents, are the future of AI, clearly. And all of this combines that with the security and the ability to service clients. That's a new twist.
Well, think of the two technologies and their evolution as like a Ferrari. Blockchain is the engine. It's the engineering components that make it work and make it sustainable. But the design, the wow factor, is the AI components. And together they work very well. They could be independent, but without the blockchain component, AI is essentially a car that won't go anywhere. And without the AI component, blockchain is merely just a piece of technology that you can push down the street without getting any attention to it. I think this is critical, the merger between the two of them. And again, these companies are starting to realize the need to evolve into this kind of format. We mentioned Meta and what Facebook did in the metaverse and all these things. Like, pop open your WhatsApp now. You can literally start an AI conversation with yourself. They call it an assistant. Now, who gets that data? I mean, it's Facebook after all. But
conspiracy corner hasn't happened yet, Mike. Hang on. I do want to say this, though. I feel that the blockchain behind the scenes kind of thing, we've always often talked, the adoption of Web3 will happen when people don't realize that it's Web3. And Web3 has morphed into blockchain as a terminology in the business world. But blockchain will be behind the scenes tech that enables it all. To your point, Mike, it's the engine that drives the car. But people, that's not the selling feature. It's not that, I'm going to use this because it's a blockchain thing. It's, I'm getting better service. I don't really care what happens behind those walls. So when Deutsche Telekom can build their business on the back of that, other companies and competitors of them and others in other spaces will copy that.
But the fancy selling point is the Ferrari, the design of the Ferrari.
And we've talked many times. I don't need to know how my iPhone works. I just need to know it works and the apps I can get to do more things that I want on it.
Say it, Michelle. I know you want to. Say it. I know you want to. What are we hoping that occurs on the phone? What is the app that we're hoping for?
We're going to get a wallet on it, aren't we? A digital wallet.
We're making waffles. We're making waffles. Here it is. I teed it up.
All right. I want to take us into the conversation you started to touch on, Mike, about the data. Who gets the data? There's a story coming out of PC Mag is our next piece here. Reddit is licensing content to an unnamed AI company. Love these backroom dark deals. So Reddit is basically getting a check for $60 million to allow content from its site to be used to train AI models. This is according to Bloomberg. That company remains unnamed, but it is, quote, a large AI company, end quote. Agreement could potentially be a model for future deals in the AI space. Unrelated, although I'm sure it is, Reddit is expected to go public as soon as next month, $5 billion valuation on them. So bottom line is there's a company that wants to get a bunch of data to create and build AI models. Wonder who that might be. The reality is there's a lawsuit going on behind the scenes on whether or not, who gets the data for the training data. Is it public or not, et cetera. Reddit's moving ahead and just getting paid for what they're doing. Michelle, we'll start with you on this one. What do you think? Is this how these companies will get around the lawsuit problem? Is this just Reddit trying to get a couple of bucks in its wallet before it goes public? What do you think this means?
I think the teething problems that there've been before and a couple of the lawsuits that have happened mean that ultimately, OpenAI and Bing or whoever have to kind of negotiate and navigate the waters in terms of where they get their data from and how they use it and if it's copyrighted and ownership and IP and all of that stuff. So I mean, ultimately, unless they want to spend the next 20 years in lawsuits, which, in America that happens and it can drown companies even if they're really well financed, I think that they're going to have to do some of that stuff. I mean, one of the interesting points in this particular article talks about the fact that now CNN, Reuters, and the BBC have all blocked OpenAI's web crawler from scraping their websites for content. If you want ChatGPT version 15 to be the best that there absolutely is, they're going to have to negotiate with those organizations to be able to use their content in it. Otherwise, it won't be a complete model.
For now.
They just don't want to be called out on their bullshit. That's the problem.
What do you mean?
Well, a lot of the stuff they put out there is exaggerated and they feel like they're the trusted name in news. If AI comes in and counters that destroys a pretty decent narrative that they have on their platforms.
I was going to say something similar in that they are right now the quote unquote news source, but that's quickly becoming TikTok and other places where there's not going to be that. They won't have the same power to deny because it won't matter. If you're an irrelevant,
this is the ultimate fact check.
How
if
so?
You really think well, I mean, if anybody can put in anything that we're talking about now and validate whether it's true or not using an AI protocol, I mean, again, we got to vet out which information is accurate or not, but it's the easiest way in the world to be called out on bullshit.
So this is going to get into the news bias factor. So I hate to talk about war, but you take your pick around the geopolitics of the world right now. There's the factual thing of an event happened, good or bad. And then there's the opinion thing of that's really, our side is winning or our side is losing. And you can apply this to U.S. presidential elections. You can apply this to Gaza and wherever you want. But the reality is the perspective of that news event is going to become in question because so there are left and right leaning news organizations. That's no secret. And I would want my AI to give me the right answer, which is the one.
Correct. You don't want to hear an opinion about a mostly peaceful protest while there's a firebomb going on in the background.
Right.
But getting back to this particular article, my sentiment on this is Paris Hilton's sex tape coming out before the next season of Simple Life. It's a way to get them in the headlines before the IPO happens.
Why do we keep this guy here? Keep going.
Because I'm not replaceable by AI yet.
Apparently not.
I don't know. Get that tinfoil hat out.
I had to destroy it. My son got his hands on it, so I have to make.
I think the government was involved in that, frankly, Mike. But keep going.
Maybe they conspired with my 1-year-old.
Yeah.
So what does this do for Reddit's community? I mean, we have to think about the users that actually engage with the platform. Exactly, that's my point.
I agree with you.
Where does this end up when I reference GameStop, right? Where did the entire GameStop community convene?
Wall Street Bets?
On Reddit.
Oh yeah, Reddit, right.
So, if you're tapping into a group like that has the ability to formulate some sort of a collaborative effort to push back, and they're very successful at that. Reddit better be very careful about the information that they're sharing with unvetted sources.
I agree with you on the surface, but I also think that people don't care for the most part. Like, you're getting your data, you're getting data raped on Facebook every day, and they're selling it back to you as ads, and people still go on Facebook.
Correct. But the people who are on Reddit and engage with that are a little bit more in the know.
Yeah. And if you look at the Bolt chat, Insol's comment is, I'd be pretty pissed as a long-term Redditor that first I was used to sell targeted ads from the information, and that my content is, packaged up so the AI models can be trained on it.
So you know where this goes then, to the good point on the back of that is decentralized social. I still want social media and the interaction. I don't want to have my data harvested and sold. So now comes the places, the mastodons and all these, they're the version of social we haven't hit yet is you can't harvest my data. And that's what people are going to want.
Yeah.
Well, I think harvesting of data is always going to be a thing. It's impossible to not do it. But who owns that data, I think, is where it's going to lie. So I'll take, and we discussed this on the show before from the social platform, a platform like Minds. Minds has the ability to take all of your information, put it onto a token, and leave the platform. Right.
So you own your data.
You own it, but it doesn't mean it can't be used while you're still engaging with it.
Interesting. So you're saying that that's almost like micro ads during the times on which you're active on the platform.
Correct. And if you don't want to be there anymore, you can just pack your shit and go. But
which AI would enable with AI, that's possible.
100%, because it has the ability to scour so many things in such a short period of time. If you're engaged with that, it can utilize it while you're there. But if you remove the content from the platform, it has nothing left to rake in.
Interesting. That's an interesting angle, Mike. I have to think about that. I feel like, so there you go. It changes the advertising space, specifically the paid ads on social. Which is already going through. Look at what we just talked about a moment ago with Sora and with the text to video that OpenAI is enabling.
This brings a whole different dynamic to A/B testing when it comes to ad placements.
So I can micro create my mini movie of 1 minute a la Sora through an AI agent in the time that Mike is posting for the 12 seconds you're on a platform. That's actually possible down the road.
And it can also scour all of your previous content and engagement and tailor that ad more specifically towards your interests.
To you.
Interesting. Yeah. So this gets into psychology, right? This is where this is going to go. The advertising becomes a game. It always was. It's built around psychology.
Yeah. It's foundation is psychology.
But it's going to become even more so because the ability to press on the psychological trigger buttons instantaneously, that didn't exist prior.
And again, this is the danger that I feel like we run into culturally. Are we going to now adopt our train of thought and our mindset around the AI output versus what we would traditionally do, and the AI learns what we traditionally do? Like, are we changing our behavior based around what we're experiencing with the AI component? I don't know if that's a good thing or not.
Arguable. I probably would agree with you. It's not, but the reality is when you observe something, it changes. That's proven from physics. So
yes.
Yeah, I think
maybe.
Go ahead, Michelle.
Maybe we need to create a course on how to help people not be psychologically duped by the future of AI.
As much as I hate taking us into the crypto realm, I have to, because this next story is actually interesting. And we are not a crypto show. We are not looking to attract the crypto bros. But from a business perspective, story at a CoinDesk here, Ether could be the next institutional darling. There's a new research report out from Bernstein, which is a regional U.S. brokerage firm. And according to this research, now may be the time to focus on Ether, the second largest cryptocurrency. They believe Ether has a better than 50% chance of ETF approval by May in the United States, which means that the futures trading on Bitcoin will now happen on Ether. And the idea is basically beyond making money. That's not what this is about. The business angle is this would enable the building of a tokenized financial market on the Ethereum network. Mike, you've been talking for a long time on how Ethereum is so well suited for something like this. So this isn't about making money. It's about enabling new business structures and tokenizing the existing world, especially finance, but tokenizing of everything onto Ethereum. Thoughts on this, Mike? We'll start with you.
Well, I mean, as you can see at the very top of the screen here, I mean, Ethereum is down a little bit today, but it did pop over 3,000 again yesterday. So clearly there's still moves being made, and we're seeing a resurgence in that particular area. I guess one of the things that I realized throughout, watching the pricing over the last month or so of what Ether has done. And for those who don't know, Ether is the native coin that basically fuels the Ethereum blockchain. One of the things that I found interesting is that traditionally when Bitcoin goes up, Ether follows, and vice versa. We're starting to see more independent movement between Ethereum and Bitcoin now. And that could be due to the halving that's occurring in April with Bitcoin. It could be due to a lot of the layer 2 advancements that have happened with Ethereum. There's been, pretty significant advancements between Matic and, what Polygon has provided with some of these larger companies. We've seen bigger projects pop in here. The one tinfoil hat comment or concern that I have here is, when you get Wall Street involved and you start trading on nothing, pieces of paper, rather than the actual tokens themselves, which, you can argue and debate with people on whether that's nothing too, but there is substantive to the digital realm of what those cryptocurrencies provide, particularly on Ethereum, where you can build off of it. It's one of those blockchains that's unique, different, I guess, from Bitcoin in the sense that you can actually build different components on top of Ethereum. And that's really what the value of that sets in. But the minute Wall Street gets involved with, SEC and ETFs and futures and all these different components that they're going to bring to the table, now we're starting down that path where Wall Street's going to try to leverage what transactions happen, but they're not going to be doing it in the right marketplace.
So there's two aspects there. And as for those who don't know, I'm former Wall Street, long time. There's the money-making thing. That's all Wall Street wants. How can they make money from the futures trading in ETH? But there's also the business building on a blockchain tokenization of stuff. That's totally separate. So I'll dig into that. There's another aspect I want to touch on about the difference between Bitcoin and Ether. But Michelle, I want to get your thoughts first here. Is Ether going to be the next institutional darling?
Well, as it says there, and we've talked many times about, the different coins and other currencies, and really, ETH is the one that would be the most obvious choice, and probably the only one, even amongst, and the other layer 2 stuff really isn't what the top end of town would consider something to be seriously looked at. And so in that point of view, you've got Bitcoin, you've got Ethereum, and they have always been the two major things, and they'll always be something that people can use to create further wealth from, not just in owning the coin, but in this particular way. And as we've talked about before, this is step 2 now. Step 1 was the Bitcoin ETFs. Step 2 would be doing Ethereum ETFs. And then, the Wall Street end of town gets their dirty little mitts on a little bit more of the alternative financial institutions.
The big distinction that I want to highlight is that ETH is very different from Bitcoin. It's not, you can print Ether and you cannot print Bitcoin, right? Bitcoin is capped, 21 million, never going to be more. Ether doesn't have that type of quantity cap, which means, and there's no official money-making, policy-making thing on the currency end of it. So theoretically, ETH is open to co-opting by Wall Street. Like finance can do stuff with ETH that it can't do with Bitcoin because it's got mathematical limits on it. And so I really feel that Wall Street in general will capitalize. Ether becomes the new quote unquote, finance currency, let's call it, for the tokenization of everything, meaning you buy your house on the blockchain, you buy any type of securities on the blockchain. Ether is going to become the thing. So I do agree with you, Mike, that it's Wall Street will be very involved in this. But I want a distinction here between Bitcoin as a preserved store of value is not what Ether's about. Ether's about currency transactions. So
it's blockchain, right? So it's a ledger of transactions regardless, whether they're financial or not is irrelevant. But let's think of it this way, okay? Because I know you don't like to create similarities between the two, even though there are very similar functions that could be
they copied the blockchain. It's the ETH is the Bitcoin blockchain.
Okay, so let's just expand on it for a second and what it's evolved to. You mentioned that Ether could potentially be Disneyland dollar that occurs on blockchain, right? What if Bitcoin is the bridge from your fiat component, and that's the store of value, wealth, whatever you need? But in order to transact on anything blockchain related, you would have to transfer your Bitcoin into Ether in order to conduct those transactions. Now,
I think that's exactly what's going to happen, Mike.
Well, then again, I retract my statement earlier about the need for them to work in unison, right? Because if you think about it, what you're doing here is you're taking euros and you're transferring it into USD constantly in order to conduct specific transactions. Well, the value of the euro and the USD don't necessarily work in sync.
Arbitrage.
I agree. Won't. But if this is the future where this moves, is it in Wall Street's best interest to treat them both identical?
No.
So that they do work together.
It's in Wall Street's best interest to do exactly what it's done in traditional currency. I can trade my Swiss, francs up against US dollars, up against rubles. Like that's how they make money.
But you're not necessarily limited to the end transactions, like the final transactions between merchant and consumer, buyer and seller, with respect to one currency or the other, right? You don't have to, if you're living in the US, you do not have to transfer your USD into another currency in order to conduct that transaction. But in this theoretical blockchain world, we would want those transactions to happen on the Ethereum network, mostly because there's many layer twos that you can bridge that into.
So the commercial transaction, the buying and selling, will happen on the Ethereum blockchain. It's just convenient. It's easy. It's been proven. It works well. Bitcoin, too expensive, not enough of them, et cetera, et cetera. So there will be that conversion factor, which makes the whole cryptocurrency world now becomes literally the currency. It's recreating the currency system we have here.
But it's on a global scale.
Right.
It's on a much bigger scale. So again, if Bitcoin is the storage of your wealth, think of it as the safety deposit box. You bridge your fiat currency in whatever area and whatever stage of your life you're in. You bridge that into a component like Bitcoin, which is more of a storage of wealth that has value that's variable, right? It has variable value with respect to it going up and down in price too. So it could go up, it could go down. It's basically leaving it into an investment type of ordeal. And the minute you need to do any transactions, you simply bridge that Bitcoin into the Ethereum network, which, believe it or not, with blockchain, it's super easy to do.
Michelle, I want to get your thoughts, but I got one more comment, Mike. This creates a place for Wall Street that does not exist with Bitcoin. The place for Wall Street in an Ethereum world is custody. Right? There's so many people that don't know how to work wallets and don't trust and want to be able to call the 1-800 number if I lose my money. And so that's what Wall Street will provide, because it's a commercial transaction front end. Ethereum is going to become where things get bought and sold. Bitcoin will be, to your point, Mike, where you store your wealth. I agree with you. But if you can buy and sell and save, quote unquote, in US dollars or euros or whatever, then you're going to get a whole new ecosystem around that's not Bitcoin related, of people just buying and selling stuff. That's what I think, and that's what Wall Street wants.
So if we've got Ethereum ETFs and JP Morgan decide that they're going to do a JP Morgan coin, or the other banks in, there might be a Deutsche Bank coin, and there might be a whatever American Express coin, then this gives them an avenue, doesn't it, for them to actually make money doing their own stuff as well.
Which opens the door to everything we've always talked about in this program around loyalty reward systems, community building, all the things that blockchain would enable you on the business end.
Except this doesn't, again, it's on the wrong marketplace. This is on the wrong. This is on the. We'll use the layman's terms here, but like it's Wall Street versus Wall Block. So they're not transacting these ETFs on chain. They're hoping that the futures have any predictability on the price of where those coins migrate to. But again, I don't see this having that much of an impact, particularly at the speed of transactions that occur in the secondary marketplace, like crypto, versus what Wall Street can do.
Yeah, well, let's get one thing straight. Wall Street has no interest in cryptocurrency, period. They want something that they can own and control and be completely centralized. So that is not cryptocurrency. Ethereum is a nice little close enough version that Wall Street can work with, is my point.
But it still won't be on chain.
The Wall Street doesn't want it on chain.
But that's my point. So the whole thing is a facade utilizing the crypto elements that came
100%. If for those who are thinking this is actual real cryptocurrency trading, nothing in the futures world of Bitcoin futures, the ETFs you're reading about, none of that is actually cryptocurrency. They are derivatives based off of cryptocurrency, and I'll give you the equivalent of it's the juice from the orange is not the orange. So Wall Street's trading orange juice. The oranges are really where the value is. Ethereum allows them to do that en masse at larger scale. And I think that's why it goes that way. So I would just make people aware that for those who are true purists in the Web3 sense, blockchain, cryptocurrency, this is not that. But it is it looks like that. And so people will get involved.
But what it also is something that will help bring more eyes on the other.
Yes. But again, with futures, you can control pricing, and that is really what Wall Street wants. You can quote unquote print more Ethereum and move the prices if you need to. And this is conspiracy hat stuff, I know. And so that's what ends up happening is the goal here isn't if you can't get rid of it, you got to control it. And Ethereum is something they can work with. Now, Mike, I know you hate that.
I do because again, I feel like it's just nothing more than, a snake oil salesman trying to push something that they don't have. Right. But this could also, Spanner brings up another point. This could also be the foundational components for them to try to build their own cryptocurrency that they do control. And that could be another play that potentially works out too.
Spanner's right. As always. Spanner, you're always right, buddy.
Coin.
It's the central bank digital coin, the CBDC you hear about. That would be their ultimate, goal.
But that again, like if they try to migrate into this terminology, that central bank digital coin does not necessarily need to be on a blockchain.
Yeah, and I don't want to get into like the world control and the WEF and all that stuff. I just know that Wall Street smells money. They can get involved with ETH. They can basically create transactions on a blockchain that you buy and sell, tokenized everything on the Ethereum network. It's now possible. And so, yeah, I think Bernstein is onto something with this.
Bonus points for who can tell me what year the SEC was founded.
Nah, I know this because I just got 30 years Series 7. I should know this off the top of my head. 19.
Well, you can read Roman numerals is there.
Oh, is it?
85?
Sorry.
Oh, it's on the thing.
Yeah, Mike, I used to know this inside and out. Don't
34?
Yeah, 34.
1934,
right.
Yeah.
So it's the Securities Act of 34, and the Securities Act of 33, for those who care, creates the U.S. stock exchanges, and the 34 then regulates them. I know all this stuff. It doesn't matter. They have to recreate that whole system. Then they can't with crypto, but they're going to try anyway.
And they'll just try to get as many cookies in the cookie jar while they have the ability to get their hand in there.
The purpose of Business on the Block, for those who don't know, is to bring a business discussion around blockchain and how you can use it in your business to grow what you're doing. Whether you're a small-time creator, a big company, it's now the future of business and commerce. It enables new ways of marketing. It enables new ways of growing your business, basically. These are new revenue streams. The folks haven't really gotten their hands around this yet, but blockchain, and now with the integration of AI, enables entirely new business models. And we three here feel that this is worthy of discussion. We've been doing, this is episode 68 right now. And it's increasingly become more of an AI show, and we get a little bit of crypto in here. But the basic purpose of this program is that folks can learn real business on cutting edge technology where you're not going to get this. They're not teaching this anywhere else. All right. Final comments. The new Hollywood. I really think that we should keep an eye on what's going on here with this AI text. It's only 1 minute long, by the way, right now. For what Sora is providing, if you want to create a movie, you can only do a 1 minute long movie. But how soon before that's going to be?
You can scotch tape all those together.
Right. But also at the moment, they're the ones in control of it. So you can give them a prompt and they might make a movie for you. So at the moment, you actually can't make your own movies yet with this particular tool.
Does that
but
make
it's coming, but they're testing it.
Does that make OpenAI the premier movie studio house in the world?
I think it's just another notch in the belt for their AI capabilities and their AI empire that they're building.
I think that's the one that's really got my eye. The other stories that we touched on, for those who don't know, Fetch and Deutsche Telekom are converging AI and blockchain to see if they can integrate with services that serve customers. Reddit is licensing their content to an unknown. That could be Anthropic, actually, but my guess is it's OpenAI trying to figure out money. Those waters that are going to get legal. There's money to be made. They got to get that settled up front, and then Ethereum becoming the new hot thing in the finance world. I know, Mike, it's not just finance, but finance is specifically focused on it because they can leverage it. Any thoughts from you guys?
We are not a crypto show.
Yeah. All right. I'm going to thank everyone for listening.
It's your own financial advice. Mike could put a thing down the bottom.
We go out every Wednesday, 9:30 a.m. Eastern time. This is a new time slot for us because of European demand, Michelle. And
2:30 p.m. UTC.
Special shout out to the Bolt team. We appreciate all the help. You guys are doing a great job. We thank you. For those who don't know, Bolt TV is a broadcast platform that we support. And believe it or not, we're out over multiple platforms again today. We're going to try to get us on. I guess YouTube will be our main home. Is that where I'm sending people?
To
Business on the
like
Bloc
our page. Yep.
On YouTube. All right. Leave us any comments. Thanks for listening, everybody. We will see you next week.